are live.
Hello, everybody. One of the biggest things that kept me drinking was, well, I thought my friends, my acquaintances, my coworkers, even just regular normal drinkers. Barbecues, the friends would be going wine tasting. I wouldn't want to miss out on that stuff. There's all sorts of things, the concerts that I went to, and I still go to all those things now. I'm still able to hang out with those friends, even the drinking friends in those drinking situations. But back then, I really did put a lot of blame on them for my continued drinking. And to, some aspect of it, maybe it was a little bit true, but was it all the way true? And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about some of those outside influences on our life, and are those people, are they going to help us continue to drink? Are they going to keep us from stopping drinking? And how is that going to make it so that, like, I'm never going to stop drinking? I mean, this can happen if you really focus in on that. It really depends on what you focus on. So before we get to that, let's say hello to Marcus. How you doing, Marcus?
Hey guys, doing pretty good. Let me know how the audio is, if you can echo on me or Terry, or if everything sounds okay. Type 100 in the box and let us know the quality as well. We're trying out a new system today. But yeah, I think it's important to look at the several different types of people that will probably never get sober and will probably not help you get sober, which I think is important because, I mean, when it comes to sobriety, you are in charge of your own sobriety. Nobody else, nothing else, just 100% you are in charge of your sobriety. And I think it's important to look at because a lot of people, if their sponsor goes out, they're like, oh, wait a minute, am I going to go drink now? What's going on? Or their sponsee goes out. Oh, am I going to drink now? What's going on? And I think it's really important to look at because there's a lot of people that has a lot of advice for everyone in sobriety, but very few people understand how chemical dependency works and how the mind of an alcoholic works. And I think that that is something that we need to talk about because how many of you guys, by letting us know in the chat, have dealt with something like that? Where you're like, oh yeah, someone's told me how to get sober and I tried to do it and it didn't work, or everyone's always got this advice, or it seems like everyone's always badgering me, and I don't know what to do. Maybe you read a celebrity's book on how to get sober and they're all over the, hey, you got to relapse to get sober. And it's like, wait a minute, isn't relapse drinking, which would be counterintuitive? Yeah, I don't like that, right? I think there's a lot of different things going on that people just don't realize.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I talk about the friends, and it's not like they were taking me and saying you have to drink or anything like that, but really what it was for me is, and I lived in the wine country, and that was one of my favorite things to do was to go to the wineries and go from winery to winery to winery all day long and drink, and sometimes I didn't get wasted, but either way I was still, I didn't want to miss out. It was fun, and I look back on it with the memories of the fun times that I had, and that's something that I was really afraid to stop. And so, in that respect, they were kind of um, not helping me to stop drinking. Those guys, maybe some of them have a chemical dependency on alcohol, maybe they don't. I don't know, but I know that I do, and that for me to have that one glass of wine or the one taste of wine at the winery and then go to another one and do that, that's not possible for me. I'm going to want five glasses at each winery, and I don't know when I'm going to stop. Maybe sometimes I can control it, but that's the problem with chemical dependency is I never knew where to stop. And the wineries were something. And I deal with this even to this day as far as it's not a fight anymore for me, but I cycle with the cycling group up where I live now, and I go on several rides a week, and a lot of times, they're going to have a beer after their ride. and I join them, but I don't join them with the beer. I have a soda, or I had to have a ice water or whatever, or a cup of coffee. That's kind of what I drink too much of now. But that's usually the type of thing that I do now. I just don't need the alcohol anymore. It does nothing for me. In fact, alcohol actually it does do something to me though. It hurts me, and it's going to drive me to the grave early if I start drinking again. And so I really had to develop a life where alcohol isn't an issue. And that's what we talk about a lot here is just developing this life that we don't have to run from the alcohol, and we can live a normal life. A lot of this is well, a lot of my sobriety at least is it's not living like a hermit and hiding from these things that I enjoyed. I still am able to go to concerts. I'm still able to go to the barbecues where everybody is drinking. I'm able to do that. But it took some work to learn how to do that. And that's what's really important in sobriety. And I feel that's what's really important for everybody trying to stay sober and not drink. You
Mm.
know, that's a key for me, definitely.
Yeah, I think so too, because, there's certain people that just won't stop. Like my brother drinks. He was an addict. He went to the same rehab as Terry and I, and he was down and out because of drinking. It wasn't. I mean, his drug of choice changed multiple times, but he was in rehab because of drinking. That was the issue, and right out of rehab, he started drinking again. Now, was it as heavy? I don't know. Is it as heavy now? I don't know. But I do notice the difference in once you get alcohol completely clear of your mind and of your life, your thoughts start to change and the way that you think and process emotions starts to change drastically. And I think that's the key for me is like I don't want to go back to that dark place. For me, drinking was a dark place. Now, was there fun times with drinking? Yes. Can those fun times be had without drinking? Yes. Did I attribute the two together because everyone does? Yeah. Just like the story we tell all the time here and in our course at talksober.com. When I drank because of anxiety, I would go and, I'd go somewhere I'd know I'd be anxious, and I would drink, and then 15 minutes later, my anxiety would go away. And I was like, well, must be the magical drink making me not anxious. Wonderful, hallelujah, great. But then I realized after I got sober, 15 minutes after going somewhere, my anxiety kind of dropped anyway because I got used to my environment. And I was like, wait a minute, for all these years, I was blaming this or saying that alcohol was what was helping when in actuality it was just nature taking its course. And I think a lot of that is what we learn, as alcoholics, we learn how blood sugar affects us. Like for me, I am very sensitive to my blood sugar. The other day, we came over here, I hadn't eaten anything, and I was like, okay, we were supposed to clean out the office because it looked like it looked crazy here because I was moving everything around, as you guys have noticed from the background and the setting here. And I noticed that my blood sugar dropped drastically. And I was like, man, I don't feel good. And I had to lay on the ground. And I was like, okay, well, push everything over at me and I'll organize it laying here on the ground because I knew. And it was funny because most people wouldn't know that small of a spike because I went and tested it and it wasn't off the charts or anything. But my blood sugar after I ate was pretty high, which meant I was way low when I didn't eat. And it was interesting because I was like, wait a minute, and pretty high for me was low for most people. But I'm very attuned to that. And as alcoholics, I think we're attuned to that as well because alcohol and blood sugar issues do go hand in hand because alcohol turns into sugar in your body. And now you're dealing with all this other stuff on top of it. And we don't attribute that to, hey, we're chemical beings. We're just like, hey, I'm the strongest person alive and I just get drunk. It's like, well, there's a lot of factors going on. We are chemical beings. That is a fact. You don't have enough water, you ain't gonna last very long. You have too much coffee, yeah, you're gonna be anxious. You have too much alcohol, you're gonna be depressed. Hey, newsflash, it's a depressant. But people like my brother and some other people just don't get that. right? They don't get that at the core, not enough to make it to where it's like, hey, I need to stop completely. And it is to each his own on everyone's count. If someone is happy being a drunk and it's working in your life, then by all means, if that's what you want to do, you can do what you want, right? But I think we find that over time it whittles away at our life and eats away at us and changes things.
Yeah, I think definitely there's some people that won't ever quit, and I think they're just missing some important pieces of trying to get sober. I think one of the most important things when they're trying to get sober, and maybe they went through rehab like your brother did, and maybe for me, I went through rehab and I did not stay sober. I started drinking again, and when I look back at that, I realized that I did not really want to quit. And it was really that simple. I didn't want to stop yet.
Mm-hmm.
And now the question is, are there people that, they realize they should quit, but they don't ever really, really want to quit? And, there was a part of me that still wanted to keep going, even when I did finally stop. And for me, it was more a matter of I have to stop, and what I'm about to lose is more important than continuing to drink, even though I still want to. And for me, that was my life. And sometimes it comes to that. Some people, that it doesn't even come to that for some people, and that's why they continue to drink. And I think that's just a big factor is that desire to stop. But still, so I talk to some people, and they've spent years, like a decade, maybe 2 decades, trying to stop, going in and out of like the 12-step programs or something like that, just continuing to try and try and try, and then they finally have gotten some sobriety, and or maybe they got some sobriety and went out again, and they started drinking again, and they have a difficult time. They want to stop. They really want to. But what are they missing? And if I had that exact answer, I'd be a rich man probably. But there's some things to think about. And for me, what it was, a lot of it for me was building that life that I can enjoy without alcohol. And I do a lot of activities. I'm a very busy person, and that's because I've built this life, and where alcohol is just not involved, and I don't have time for it anymore, really. And so I don't want it, and it's not a factor at all. We went out to dinner the other night at a beautiful restaurant, and it was funny. The other four people did not drink because they didn't feel like having a drink, and I feel the same way. I don't feel like having a drink, but for me, it's also I can't, but they can. They can drink. They don't have problems with alcohol. It's just not part of their life, and that's what most normal people are. And that kind of brings me to the next type of person that maybe they won't ever stop drinking. And that's that normal person. Well, why would they? There's nothing wrong with, having a couple of drinks here and there. That's believe it or not, I think that's the way most drinkers are, is they just have some drinks here. Maybe they drink a little too much here and there, but most of the time they can go out and have one, and that's it. And that's not me. I know I can't. And that person may never stop. And that's another person that I have to be careful of if I'm hanging around them, because maybe they want to go out and meet me, and we're going to go have lunch somewhere, and they're going to have a beer, and I just need to be aware that that's okay. They can have a beer. I can't have that single beer. I have to just pay attention to what my limitations are, and I don't need a beer. So that's an important thing. Now, one of the things that I didn't talk about really too much because it doesn't really affect me, but that's the family or people that are close to us. Like, let's say a spouse is a heavy drinker and you're trying to stop drinking, or your family, you live with a bigger family, and a bunch of them are just drunks, and you're trying to stop drinking. What do you do about that? That's a tough thing to deal with. You know, like, do you have to move out? Some people have to. And some people have to cut people out of their lives, and or just cut them out of their lives temporarily while they work on their sobriety. The thing that I have to think about is, if there's a person that is a bad influence on my sobriety, is it worth it? For me, if I drink, it means, it means the end for me. And I've convinced myself of that. That's for sure. I've tested it many times, and it was almost the end many times. And so I have to pay attention to that. And so, that's if there's somebody that's toxic towards my sobriety, I kind of need to push them away for at least for a while, or talk to them and let them know what's going on. I think communication is a big factor, and especially if it's a spouse. And my spouse and I, we have open communication, so we talk about things and what's safe and what's not, and all that, and we respect each other for what they have. My wife is a normal drinker, and she can have one, and that's what she has here and there, and she's perfectly fine, and I'm fine with it too. It's just a matter of communication. So that's what helps me a
Absolutely.
lot.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those things you have to be on guard for your sobriety.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what we talk about in our course at talksober.com. You can go there, click the big yellow button. Not only does it support the show, but it also will give you a bunch of PDFs and MP3s and everything with what we learned about how to quit drinking. And I think it's different because Terry and I come from very different walks of life, very different upbringings. Um, not a whole lot in common other than alcohol and recovery, which I think is interesting because, he was like, well, I got anxious when I drank, but I wasn't normally just an anxious person. For me, I was an anxious person, and there's a lot of interesting things there. And I think that what brings us similarities is our drinking and how we got through it. And that's why I think both of us are so 100% sold on it is chemical dependency. Is there a lot of mental stuff going on? Yeah. That's what's going to stop you from taking the chemical. But what's going on is chemical dependency, bar none, 100%. Because we've seen people from all walks of life, a businessman, a person who doesn't have a job, a stay-at-home mom, all different people from all different walks of life. I had an abused childhood. Someone didn't. I had this. Someone didn't. But what we see is there's a common thread in the way that we think about alcohol, in what alcohol does to our brain, and in how we are going to get sober and stay sober. Because quitting drinking is easy. I quit drinking every time the bottle was empty. Staying stopped is a whole nother issue.
Mhm.
And that's what we got to focus on is how are we going to stay stopped even when other people are telling us it's impossible, other people are telling us we're degenerate, we're this, we're that. Everyone has a solution, everyone has an answer, everyone has a reason, when in reality, all I need is one reason, and that is alcohol is ruining my life. Plain and simple, that's it. Nothing else matters when it comes to alcohol, but getting rid of the alcohol, and I think that's super important.
Yeah, once we realize that, that's a big breakthrough. Once we take that down to our heart and really understand that. And Dave, thanks for your comment, and appreciate seeing you at all of our lives. And you said that if I didn't have a busy schedule, I would be more likely to drink, and that's with me too. And that's one of the tools that I use. Well, I'm just kind of busy because I'm busy. I do things and I overbook. I guess I don't know what it is, but yeah, that's one of the tools. But if you're trying to quit drinking, you do need to go to the doctor and make sure you detox safely. So make sure you do that. That's super important. Detoxing is dangerous. Go to a doctor. Once you've gotten yourself through the detox, it's also important to get into some sort of program. That was another thing that kept me from stopping drinking completely. Staying stopped is what I'm trying to say. And that was the fact that I could stop drinking, just like Marcus said. Bottle's empty, I'm not drinking. But was I able to stay stopped? And no, because I didn't know how. I had to learn how to stay stopped. And it's really hard to learn how to do something that you're not going to do. If you understand what I'm saying, it's hard
Hmm.
to learn how to not do something, and that involves some quite a few tools. We do have a lot of tools on our program that you can join, and that's one of the programs you could join. But I encourage you to join some sort of sobriety program, and that will help you and at least guide you in the right direction. Because as Marcus said in the beginning, your sobriety is your responsibility, and it's what you do that's going to keep you sober, not what you think, not what you learn, but it's going to be what you do. The thinking, the learning is very, very helpful, but you do have to take action to stay sober. And, just other realizations that realize that alcohol does nothing for you. Yeah, it might kind of make you a little easier, make it a little easier to talk to other people when you're at a party or something like that. For me, it actually didn't. I felt that it did, but it didn't. When being sober, I'm much quicker, it's much easier to talk to other people, and especially strangers. I know what to do now. Before it was, just trying to figure out something and trying to look like I'm listening to them and trying to come up with my own story that's better than theirs. That was kind of the way I talk to people. Now I can actually listen to other people and encourage them and help them and empathize with them if they need some empathy. But taking off alcohol off the table, that's was the most important thing, is that alcohol is just not an option anymore, and that's how I have to go through life. It's not an option, and for me, that's okay. It's all good. And for any of you guys that are struggling right now, that's it. It needs to become that option for you, and you can move on with your life and get that better life. Life's great without alcohol. I love it. I thought it was going to be boring. I thought life was going to end. I was going to have to become a hermit and not go to parties, not go to concerts, not hang out with friends, and I'm able to do all that stuff now, and I enjoy it a lot more, and I'm much more productive. I don't have to pass out for 4 hours in the middle of the day and three more times throughout the day, and that's what I have to go through.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key, is just understanding what you need to do regardless of what other people are saying and regardless of what other people are doing. Other people's sobriety is not your responsibility. Can you offer words of encouragement? Sure. But is it your responsibility? Absolutely not. And when we understand that, I think things start to change and we start to understand where the responsibility is. Because I used to feel responsible for everything. Sometimes I still do, but I have to check myself and be like, are you really that important? No, I'm not. Right? And you have to realize that, because that can add a lot of unnecessary stress to your life that really isn't going to get you anywhere. And those are things that we talk about also over at talksober.com, which you can sign up and support the channel. I think right now Terry's given a phone call with you, so all you got to do is sign up. He'll have a Zoom call or something like that. And you can get like a free welcome to sobriety or just a chit chat with Terry. I'll try to be there if I can. However, my schedule has been crazy busy lately. And I think that's important. But yeah, you can get
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
talksober.com, click the yellow button. What's that?
Yeah. Join up. I'd love to talk to you and see how see how your sobriety's going, and maybe we can help you. That'd be great. Robert was talking about anxiety, and it's actually directed to Marcus. And I know everyone's different, but I believe you've mentioned your anxiety lessened in about 3 months. Am I remembering that correctly? And
It was about a year. I mean, yeah, I could go outside the house after 3 months, but it was still pretty bad. After about a year, it started to lessen. And I would say, I don't know what it was, because I still had little hints of anxiety, like when I'd go to a meeting, sitting at the front at a big event would sometimes give me anxiety. But it was weird. It was something around Christmas time of 2021, after I had that trip with my dad before he passed. I was sitting at this event and I was like, I know I'm supposed to have anxiety, but it's just not here. And ever since that day, anxiety has been a lot less. And I don't know what the reason was. I mean, that was 7 years into sobriety. And it's like, when I say less, I mean, it's almost like completely gone now, which is interesting. Maybe it's the loss of a loved one that changed it. Maybe it was going through what I went through on the trip with him, because, it was kind of like when I was in rehab. Like, for me, I'm a germaphobe, and Terry, you went to the rehab I went to, and you can't be a germaphobe there. It ain't gonna work. It's just, I mean, it wasn't like filthy, but it's like, okay, these are people I don't know, and there's one shower for 20 people, and you're like, okay, it's what I got to do now. So I think sometimes it's a different thing. But yeah, I would say just be grateful for every little drop in anxiety, and remember that anxiety is not real. It's a perceived threat that's not really there, right? Like, you have to look at it and say, is there really something to be anxious about? And then also tell yourself it's chemical. Like, for a year, I drank decaf coffee, and that did help my anxiety, because I realized that, we are chemical, and that's what anxiety is a chemical being produced in your body. Now, are there ways to get rid of it without other chemicals? Oh, absolutely. Mindfulness, listening to talks, listening to tapes on my phone. I have probably 600 books on tape on there. A little excessive. You could probably get by with like 5. I'm one of those people who likes to buy more books than I read, because I just feel so smart. Like, look at all these books that I haven't read. Isn't that great? But one day I do read them. I think it's interesting. You have to realize how things work. Tiffany says she's over 2 years sober. Congrats on that. Yeah. And although I'm extremely grateful for being sober, my life is very boring. No concerts, friends, nothing, but better being drunk and hungover. Well, what I would do, Tiffany, is embrace the boredom. Embrace the time that you get to spend alone. I remember the first year of sobriety for me was really boring. I almost didn't even work much. But I got through things. And, it's like that old Beatles song, which was from Ecclesiastes in the Bible. To everything, there's a season. Right now, it's a season to be boring and chill out. And I think also, when we look back at our drinking, we over-glamorize how fun it was, because it actually wasn't. Like, I was talking to my wife last night. We were at dinner. We were talking about when I used to do Vegas seminars. I would put on a Vegas seminar, and the only room that was big enough that allowed me to do the seminar that had the help was like this giant penthouse in Vegas. And, I dramatized how great it was. And it was like, really, it was me running a conference, and then people would leave and I would pass out drunk. It's not fun.
Right.
Is it more exciting than my life now? Not even close.
Right.
I get to be present and enjoy every minute. When I go to concerts, I get to enjoy the actual concert. I don't have to worry about drinking or whatever it is, right? I don't have to worry about it. And if you go to a concert in Atlanta and you get a soda, it's like $1. I'm like, wait a minute, seriously? That's not the tax? You save a bunch of money too. But I find that concerts are actually more fun when you're not drinking.
Oh, yeah.
Is the temptation there? Sometimes in the beginning. Terry's talked about the story where he goes to I think he went to the Giants game back then.
Yep.
Baseball. Yeah. You wanted the big tall beer because it was there. It's like, okay, well, I mean, does a Coke do just as good? Yeah, it does the same thing blood sugar wise. You don't end up drunk, and you still have to go to the bathroom every 30 minutes. So you're fine, it's the same thing. And you save $9, and you get to actually enjoy the 7-inning stretch. You don't fall over, And it's interesting because we just over-glamorize it. And I think that just embrace it. Hey, right now I'm just chilling out. Maybe my body needs that. Maybe my mind needs to relax. Maybe it's the cursor of the next thing. Like, I realized that without my relaxing and chilling out after sobriety, I wouldn't be able to handle the stuff that I now have in my life. So that was a good thing. Is it a little bit more exciting now than it was the first year of sobriety? Sure, absolutely. But sometimes you just embrace that, and it's okay. And those are things that we talk about in our sobriety course too at talksober.com. And also, you can join our Facebook group, talk to other sober people. Sometimes when I get, because I work at home, and I tried having employees this year, but I had tried having employees here, but it just didn't work. The virtual employees I have are great, but the ones here was kind of a pain. And sometimes it gets lonely, so I'll go to a meeting or, talk to people or check out a meetup. Like Terry goes biking with his buddies and stuff, so it's important.
Yeah, I also was very bored in that first year, and a couple years in, there was still times of boredom as well. I was pretty back to normal after maybe 9 months or so. The first couple months were a mess, and I wasn't able to do anything, and it took some time. But then I was able to. I started to fall back on things that I used to do that had nothing to do with alcohol that I enjoyed doing. So Tiffany, that might be something to look at. And then if you don't really have anything that that you can think about, maybe think about some new things that you can do, some new activities of some sort. Whatever it is. For me, I love cycling, I love hiking, I love walking the dog. So as I'm describing, I like a lot of physical activity, and that's generally a lot of what I do. But the first year I was very involved with AA, and what my kind of self-proclaimed policy was is if somebody asked me to do something, I just do it. Like, hey, you want to come out for coffee with us? Yeah, I'll be there. You want to go out to breakfast? Sure. We're going bowling. Yeah, okay. I do things like that. And if it was something new that I might have been uncomfortable doing, I wouldn't try it anyways. Like, in fact, the other day I played pickleball with a guy. First time ever playing. I scored 2 points in 3 games.
Yeah. Is that one where you throw it at the trampoline thing?
No, that's smash ball.
Ah.
That's another game he said that we have to try. We'll see that. No, pickleball is like miniature tennis.
Ah.
But it's
You
a
have to hit it with a pickle?
old people game. So you don't have to run quite as much if you're playing doubles. Singles, you run quite a bit. But yeah, it's pretty fun. But Victor, I've seen your comments, and yeah, that you're asking what's next for a friend that's in the hospital with a coma from drinking. Well, here I am. I had one, and I was able to get through it. But I had to change everything in my life, and stopping drinking was the first thing. And so people can recover from it. Some people don't. I'm sorry to say, but the key is the first thing I had to do was stop drinking, and then decide that I was going to do everything I possibly could to stay sober, and that was the key for me, and that's what I did. So appreciate the comment, and yeah, Trailblazer says you can still go to concerts. You'll remember them now too. That's funny. That's one thing that I really did notice is remembering them, and also driving home where I used to live. It was a 2-hour drive from like the main concert venue if you're going to the big ones. And man, that was a terrible drive after a long concert. If I'd had a couple beers or something, not only that, unsafe. Never do that. And possibly not legal. Don't drink and drive. But now I'm able to go to concerts and be awake, drive home no problem. Know where the car is parked, things like that. It's good. It's easy. Much better now.
Cool. All right, guys. Well. I was laughing at Christine's comment. All right, guys, so if you want to support the channel here, let me know. Also, can you guys do me a little favor? I want to see if I'm having an error with the quality of the stream. Are you able to change the quality on your settings above 360? Because I'm getting a default of 360, which is way low.
Where do you do that?
The little gears, when you hover over the video, the little gear thing will show up.
There. Oh, I see.
Does your show above 360?
Yeah, we're doing 720.
You're doing okay. So it's just me, and it's clear,
Good.
right? Because I
Yeah,
can't tell
yeah, you're
because
good.
I'm looking at this monitor over here, which completely washes everything out because it's too big. But yeah,
I want to go. I hit Tim's comment because that's a great comment, and I agree with you, Tim. It isn't talked about enough, and maybe um, just for everybody, one thing that is not talked about enough is the positive influence your sobriety may have on the drinking habits of friends and family members. And actually, I have personal influence with that. And I was newly sober, and I wasn't really looking for a job, but I ended up being offered just a easy little job, helping a friend cater. And a friend of a friend said, "Yeah, this person owns a catering company. Why don't you go help her out?" And so I did, and she was drinking, and she was drinking for another year. She was pretty out of control, and she'd gotten in some trouble and things like that. And I didn't preach to her or anything like that, but I think, and I don't know that I was the influence that got her to stop drinking, but I'm sure that she saw my sobriety and what I'd gone through, and the fact that I was present, I was there, I was reliable, and she saw some good things, and I'll bet that helped her a lot, and she's still sober today. And that's that you can definitely have a big influence, and especially in family and family members that may be drinking too much. Maybe you can. I would always caution against preaching to them because then you may drive them further away. But being a good, it's amazing the influence that you can have on people.
absolutely. All right, guys, hop on over to talksober.com, click the big yellow button, sign up, get your free call with Terry, join us in our sober community over there, and we'll see you next week.
All right, thank you, everybody.
I gotta figure out which screen this mouse is going to. All right, see you guys next time.